Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the DucksNPucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard, and we are back. I know it's kind of been a while. We've been kind of busy, got a lot of stuff going on, but we got plenty to talk about with the Anaheim Ducks. We have Coach Joe Quenneville, now the head coach of the Anaheim Ducks. We have just a lot of that to cover, a deep dive into that. That'll be most of the show. We'll also talk a little bit about the playoffs and the draft lottery as well and kind of cover some of those things. But what you've been up to, Eddie? I've been pretty busy traveling lately, and I know our schedules haven't really jived lately, but at least, finally we're able to do the show and talk about Coach Q in Anaheim.
You know what, Mike? I just got out of jail. I've been freaking bored. I couldn't see the Ducks play hockey, so I guess it's illegal to stand on a freeway with the Anaheim Ducks flag and throw things at cars. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. Mike, I've been hanging out, chilling, watching the playoffs. It's been interesting. We'll talk about more of the playoffs. If you guys, I'm sure a lot of you guys know I do follow the Avalanche. I wanted them to win, but it's been pretty interesting playoffs and everything. I've just been working and having fun watching the playoffs and enjoying, I guess, I'm going to say my time off. But not really, because I wish that we were talking about more of the Ducks. But, hopefully next year we have a lot of changes, and we have, a big show, which we weren't thinking we were going to have a show this soon with so much Ducks news, what we do. But here we are. How about you, Mike? Oh, Mike, too. I'm drinking a Twisted Tea right now. So we have to get that out of the way of what we're drinking. So, Mike, what are you drinking, and what have you been up to? Because, it's been like a few weeks since I text you, too.
Yeah, I've been busy. I'm just doing, my usual Red Bull vodka, a little bit hanging out. But, I've been all over the place. In the last few weeks, I've been in Vegas, Sacramento. Went to D.C. I saw the Capitals play their last game against Carolina. I ended up catching that one. I was on a business trip and just had some free time. So I just been all over the place and actually going out to Arizona here soon. So May's just a crazy month for me between just work and, between work and just everything going on. It's been nuts. And the last, several years, the Ducks have not been in the playoffs. So we usually do a show in April, and then we don't really do one until, I guess, maybe the end of May or beginning of June. And just all this craziness going on, I was like, oh man, we gotta do a show and talk about Quenneville, because there's just so much going on with that. There's just so much to dive into. There's so many angles and so many things that we want to discuss about that, and we will do that on the show. That's going to be a majority of this show, and like I said, and a little bit about some other comments. There were some, Verbeek interviews. There was a Cronin interview. We'll dive into those. Those kind of tie in too with the Coach Q thing, and obviously the playoffs as well. We'll discuss all that. But just diving in.
Well, Mike,
into this whole situation. Yeah.
1 minute before we get into this show, I do want to dedicate this show, if you don't mind. Memorial Day weekend is this weekend. I did lose a lot of people that were my soldiers and that were my whole battle buddies and people I've respected in the military. And I just want to dedicate this show to everyone who's lost someone, soldiers that lost their lives, airmen, Navy, Marines. If I missed someone, I'm sorry. If you lost someone that's been in the military or you gave your life and you're up there in heaven listening to us, I just wanted to dedicate this show to you. This is your weekend. I know a lot of people get it twisted about barbecues and celebrations and discounts, but Memorial Day weekend is about kind of honoring the people that served their country and fallen. So I do want to dedicate this show to all of them. So sorry to cut you off, Mike, but I just want to throw that out there before we start this show.
No, that if you're going to cut me off for something, that's something that's definitely worthy of doing it. And yes, I participate in some of these ceremonies too with my profession. So absolutely, if you're out on the river somewhere, or you're having a barbecue, or you're having a beer, or a hot dog, or hamburger, or whatever, it definitely be thankful for those that have served and those that have paid the ultimate price. I've talked about this on the show before, that My father served, and 3 of my 4 grandparents served in World War II. So, it's always a somber reminder, but it's important to remember that for sure, and definitely worthy of dedicating this show to. Absolutely. So, to any of you that have served or lost people, as Eddie had mentioned, we salute you, and we appreciate everything that you or your loved ones have done for this country. All right. So Coach Q, kind of a crazy thing.
Can we
Eddie
say
and I
holy
on our
fucking shit at the beginning of the show? Can I say that?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, this was kind of nuts because, as we talked about in the last show, which, as Eddie mentioned, was a little while back, we both had a lot going on. We had to do a couple takes because we had done the show to wrap up the season. Then Cronin was fired, so we combined it. And we did talk about Q on the show originally, but then it just, we had different versions of it, and the one that we put out at the end, it's just kind of a hectic weekend for Eddie and I trying to get it done. We forgot that we had mentioned Coach Q. Eddie had brought him up about whether or not it would be an option. Is that someone we should look at? We talked about some of the other coaching options back then too as well. And Eddie and I both gave it a hard no before this was even decided. And obviously, some of you saw the post that we put out there. There was one Eddie had of Q with the big orange circle, like the red circle with the line through it, but Eddie did an orange one, which I thought was appropriate, put it out there. And yeah, our initial reactions were no. And I think that was the initial reaction with a lot of people. And this caused just like a complete, just a shitstorm. Just a complete shitstorm on social media. And what Eddie and I will do is we will talk a little bit about the timeline of how these events transpired over these last couple of years. Obviously, there's a gap in time because the initial incident, as far as we know, was during the 2009-2010 season in the playoffs. And then stuff didn't come out till 2021 when Coach Q was in Florida. So, there's a little bit of stuff there that's kind of here and there. But our opinion is still... well, we'll go through it. Our opinion is, I guess it's a mixed reaction. There's things I like about this, and there's things I don't like about this. I know there's a lot of people out there that had very, very strong feelings against it. Then I saw a lot of people that were for it too as well. So we'll kind of dive into it. I guess before I kind of go into some of the initial interviews and stuff, just your first reaction, Eddie. I was shocked when they announced it. I felt like leading up to it, it seemed more and more a possibility because there was more discussion of, hey, he had 1 interview, then he had 2 interviews. And then it was just kind of like a roller coaster. They're like, well, they talked to David Carl, they talked to Woodcroft, and then Carl dropped out, which was something you actually predicted. You thought Carl would drop out and stay in Denver. You were absolutely right on that. Kudos to you on that. And I think he did use the leverage of the interviews to get paid in Denver, which, you know what? Good for him. All for him. They threw out Sullivan. Then we know Sullivan went to New York. So it was just kind of a weird, I want to say about 2 weeks there where it was kind of a roller coaster of what was going to happen. Then it ended up happening. And I just had really mixed emotions on there. I was not one of those people, though. I was not going to block someone because of a different opinion on social media. I did not do that. I wasn't someone that was going to say F the Ducks for life. I'm going to cancel my tickets and never root for this team again. I am not one of those people. So if that's the boat that you're in, I respect it. If you don't want to buy season tickets, you don't want to support the Ducks, all that, I have nothing against that. Hopefully you're not against me for still wanting to do this show and cover the team. That's how Eddie and I feel. I just get that out in front. We're not going anywhere. We're still doing our stuff. I know some people on our staff have mixed feelings too, and I welcome that. We've got people on our staff that have all kinds of different backgrounds, religious, political, and all that. We're not all of the same mindset. We differ too. So I welcome that. And a lot of you threw comments at me, personal DMs. I know they hit up Eddie too, personal DMs, social media, and all that stuff. All kinds of different opinions. Ranging from F the Ducks to I think this is the greatest hire ever. And I respect everybody's opinion just off the bat. But just to get it out of the way before we dive into everything, we're still here. We still support the Ducks. We're still going to cover the team. Do we have mixed emotions about this? Yes, and we will dive into that. But I was surprised when it first happened, Eddie. That was my initial reaction, and I thought, oh man, good and bad. And I said, we'll elaborate on that. But before I dive into kind of the timeline and we start dissecting this, what did you think when the Ducks announced that? Were you just like, oh shit, what the F? Or were you kind of like, okay, cool? Or were you just kind of like, I don't really know how I feel right now? Because that's kind of how I felt in the beginning. I was like, I don't know what to do right now.
Yeah, well, first of all, I always have the whole, I guess the whole thing of the whole bar etiquette. You don't talk race, religion, or politics for sports or the bar. I mean, obviously, when it comes to sexual assault, I'm really adamant about that. I've had a lot of people that dealt with that, a lot of friends, females and males, that dealt with that, and I had to kind of help them in the Army too, and so that's kind of a sore subject for me. So at first, when hearing the Coach Q thing, I posted those things on Twitter, and I know his daughter refuted it and said all this shit, which obviously it's your family, you're gonna have their back. It was kind of a shock for me, Mike. I was kind of, I mean, I can deal with anything. If you steal something, I get it. If you're a drug addict, I get it. But the whole sexual assault, hiding things too, I think you're still guilty. For a championship to win, I don't care if I can win. If I could be a hockey player right now and win the Stanley Cup and win a gold medal and do everything, but it kind of takes away my integrity to hide something like that. I wouldn't do that. That's my personal opinion. It was a shock, and I posted things on Twitter, and I don't regret that. And I still think right now it's a bad choice. And we always talked about this, Mike, that the Ducks always had that kind of leverage of not having that drama to get to them off ice. Right now, they're the center of attention, infamously. Everyone's gonna watch them, and I think a lot of other fan bases are gonna watch them. They want them to fail even more because of this thing. What really leaned me towards something different was I've been reading articles about Kyle Beach actually giving his blessing. The Ducks posted something about they reached out to Kyle Beach and he said it was okay. Coach Q's interview I didn't like. I don't know if he was just uncomfortable giving interviews and the way he was having to address certain things. And I know certain things are part of NDAs, which is non-disclosure agreements where you can't talk about. But I don't know. If it was my whole thing, I would prefer not to I guess get him, if that makes sense, Mike. I know he's a good coach, and when he left Florida before he resigned, he was 7-0 in championships. But I always told everybody on this podcast, I rather have the Ducks I rather have the Ducks beat the Buffalo Sabres than to kind of jeopardize their integrity. But the only flip side I can say about this is that if Kyle Beach really gave him his blessing, that would mean that Coach Q didn't really know what was going on. Maybe he had some kind of indication, but maybe he didn't really know. I really hope the Ducks really did their due diligence and figured out what was going on and talked to Kyle Beach. And we talked offline, Mike. I wish Kyle Beach, I know he probably can't say a lot because of the whole NDA, but I wish his lawyer, like you mentioned, Mike, would give a statement, or he can just record a statement saying, yeah, I give it the blessing. I think that would make more fans feel at ease. And I know a lot of other people on the flip side saying, or people are just being, I guess we're being soft and, let's get over it. I mean, that's your opinion, and I get that. But, and I'm not one of those people that are soft and let's pat everyone in the ass and give her participation trophy. You guys listen to the podcast, how strong-willed and tough I am. But when it comes to sexual assault and things like that, I think it's kind of a sensitive subject. Especially I've dealt with it with family members and friends. And I don't know. Like you said, Mike, we're talking offline. I wish there was some kind of official statement from a lawyer, family members, or even a pre-recorded thing from Kyle Beach letting us know what the Ducks told us, that it was okay for him to coach again. But in my opinion, I still think it's kind of a backtrack and kind of a black eye right now for the Ducks.
Yeah, and I think that's how some people still feel too. I mean, you're looking at it, when they announced it, they had the press conference. They said that they did the thorough, background check. They, talked to all these people. They said that several people from the Ducks talked to Kyle Beach and that they were okay with it, got the approval. I'm fine with that. I don't think the Ducks are lying about that, but if there was, if it was, obviously you had Quenneville's daughter come out and defend him, like you said, but if there was somebody connected to Beach, if it's not him directly, but if it was a family member or a spokesperson or attorney or something, I think that could have eased a lot of people's minds a little bit more, because I had a lot of people messaging me saying, well, that's great that the Ducks said that they reached out to him and everything, but we haven't heard from him directly or someone closely connected to him. And I think that's a valid point. I mean, there hasn't been anybody that's come out closely to him. You've had other people. You've had, the NHL insiders. You've had other media people, and they're all saying that it's all good and it's fine. And I mean, okay, I guess, but you still haven't had that. So that's just kind of one of the loopholes I saw in there that kind of bothered me when they talked about doing this thorough background, all that. And I mean, this background, I mean, how thorough was it? You're talking about a couple weeks and they hired Coach Quenneville. It wasn't like they did this for like a couple months or something. So I don't know. I mean, and that's a decision for you that's listening to the show. You have to figure that out for yourself. Like, are you okay with what the Ducks said? Do you, are you fine with that, or are you not? And that's where you have to go. Like I said, Eddie and I are still going to cover the team. I'm still going to go to games, still do all the stuff I'm going to do. For me, it sits a little bit awkward because there's not really that 100% confirmation that he said it's okay. You have other people saying it. And then again, I'm not saying that I don't think the Ducks are purposely lying or covering anything up. I really don't think that. To me, it gives me a little bit of an uneasy feeling still. And I think that if you have that opinion, that's still good. And if not, if you're out there and you're like, you know what, they said that he said he forgave him, I'm good with that, and you're good with that, then cool. I mean, I'm good with that's your opinion too. Like I said, I know that there's a lot of opinions on this. They range in different ways. But Eddie and I are kind of on the same track there, that's the one thing that kind of bothers me. The other part Eddie touched on is that you had this happen back in 2010 in the playoffs, and nothing really came out about this until, like 10, 11 years later, whatever it was. And then you had Coach Quenneville. He went on the Cam and Strick podcast in April of 2024, and Eddie kind of alluded to some of this. He had an interview on there. I thought it was okay interview. Eddie didn't like it as much as I did, and I'll let him chime in a second here. But the thing is this is from what Coach Q said happened, is that there was a meeting after a playoff game in 2010 with upper management, and apparently it was a brief meeting where they said that this POS, I'm not going to mention his name, but the video coach was hanging out with the minor league players, the quote Black Aces, and that there was concern amongst the players of the way he was acting. And apparently it wasn't elaborated on other than that they were, hanging out and there was like inappropriate texts. There wasn't much more of that. And the way Coach Q described it is that he thought upper management was going to handle it, and that was kind of the way it was going to go, and that was it. He kind of also felt like he had to stay in his lane, and they were going to deal with it. So, I mean, if you believe what he said, okay, maybe he really didn't know, like Eddie talked about in Kyle Beach, is that's the reason why he forgave him. That all kind of makes sense, but Eddie and I had talked about after the show, after listening to that podcast, that there were kind of holes in there because there were times that Quenneville was asked about things in the interview and he declined to comment. Whether it was he signed some kind of agreement, like Eddie said, or he just didn't want to talk about it, I don't know. But it just does. Again, it just doesn't sit right in there. For me, I have dealt with this situation several times. Not me personally, but other coworkers and things of that nature, like Eddie's talked about. And I've had to deal with the situation where I've had people that were either the victim or basically the suspect in this, and I've had to deal with it both ways, and it's gone all kinds of different ways. I've had it to where the person was guilty of what they did. I had it to where the victim was full of crap of what they said happened. So all reigns a spectrum and all that, which I'm not saying that that's happened here. Obviously something happened because there's a 100+ page legal document from Jenner and Block law firm that talks about how Chicago screwed this up. And let's not dismiss that. The Chicago organization as a whole completely screwed this up, period. Regardless, we can debate the blame game, if it was Q or the GM, the owner, whatever. That part we can all argue and disagree or discuss. But there was a lot of things that organization, they got wrong and they screwed up. It's plain and simple. You can go read that legal document. I think it's like on page 35 or 36 where they talk about the Chicago organization, what they knew and how they didn't do anything. Which doesn't surprise me because there's a whole can of worms of other things. Apparently there's another person that is a alleged victim that may come out. You have don't forget, no one wants to talk about this, but you have the whole Patrick Kane thing and how that all went down with the case and the evidence being tampered and all that. So Chicago has a history of this kind of problem, and that's honestly what bothers me the most about all this. But in terms of this situation, Eddie, you listened to that interview too. The first time Coach Q came out, he talked on the Cam and Strick podcast, a great podcast, by the way. And I know that interview didn't sit right with you, but what did you think? He said that this is what happened. He thought they were going to take care of it. Obviously, it didn't. It resurfaces a decade later. And then we'll talk about. We also have a Verbeek interview and some stuff from Elliot Freeman too that we'll dive into as well. But what did you think about that interview? I thought it was so, and I know you really did not like it.
No, Mike. I think you can agree, and everyone listening to this podcast, there's been times in your life where you look and you fuck up, and you regret it, and you cry. I should have done this. I should have done that. People that I've lost in my life, or people that have been assaulted in my life, it should have been something different. And all I heard from that interview, which was not a bad interview. I know he's older, he doesn't know how to give interviews that properly. He's not trained. I don't think Coach Q is getting media trained. But I didn't hear one bit saying in verbatim that I fucked up. I messed up on this. I guess, I don't know. It just seemed like it was kind of deflecting. And like you said, Mike, too, like we talked about, maybe it was NDA. He couldn't say a lot of stuff. But that's what rubbed me the wrong way. And it made me seem like he was a liar. I know you felt differently in this interview than I did, but it just, I just didn't like it at all, and I just didn't want the Ducks to be in this predicament. I didn't want us to both talk about this podcast having to deal with the off ice issues. We always talked about for numerous years how the Ducks have never done kind of off ice bullshit. Now we have the whole world looking at us infamously. We had the Zegras thing, which was cool. But now it's different from everyone, and I don't know. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way. His interview, I didn't like it. Reading more articles, like I said, I've read Kyle Beach gave the approval, but I just read. I'd never heard from a lawyer. I never heard a representative from his family, even kind of a hidden voice thing he can say, or he can say something saying, "Yeah, I give him approval," which I don't understand. Why can't we just hear that? I do credit his daughter, Anna Quinville. No disrespect to her. She's defending her father, and she probably knows a hell of a lot more than we do, and more than any other fan does. I did follow her on Twitter, or X now. So if you're listening to this podcast, which I'm pretty sure you are because you're really adamant about your dad, I would love to talk to you to kind of exonerate your dad in this situation and kind of just get the fans a different perspective, because I know we're just all, Mike, we can both agree, we're just all kind of, everyone listening to this too, we're just kind of guessing and kind of inferring what's going on, but no one knows the real truth. So Anna, if you're listening to this, please shoot me a DM and we can talk, and I can just do it anonymously if you have a quote or something. It's just, yeah, I mean, I don't think, after reading a lot of the articles, Mike, I don't think Coach Q was malicious or malicious in this. I think he was just kind of caught in the middle. But it's still his responsibility to kind of mentor these young men, hockey players. I mean, Mike, you played sports in high school, right? I played sports in high school. I did track in college. I respected my coach, and I respected him and trusted him to kind of help me. So, I guess, Mike, it's the third time I'm using it, and probably third time in show's history, but it's just the whole fucked up situation. And no matter what, I mean, you're going to be fucked if you agree with him or don't, or accept him or don't, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's where a lot of people feel. You're in this mixed boat. I think the thing that I liked and didn't like in that interview on the Cam and Strick podcast is that he said, "Hey, I should have done more. I should have asked more questions and done more." But like you said, just kind of felt a little deflecting. And I know in my situation, because I've been a supervisor for almost 4 years now, that if someone connected to what I'm doing in my work came and told me what they were told, that hey, they don't feel comfortable around this person, being around them, they're doing weird things, they're sending inappropriate texts, I sure as damn hell would have a shit ton more questions, unless a superior told me specifically, we're dealing with it, we have it, okay, cool, which again goes back to we don't know exactly what was said in that meeting. But regardless, I would have a lot more questions. I would not just be like, oh, okay, like I wouldn't assume. It sounded like he assumed that management was going to handle it from that meeting. Again, I wasn't there, I don't know, but I would have had a hell of a lot more questions for that. Now, the other part you touched upon this too, moving forward, he's not the one that did the action, right? Obviously, he wasn't the one that was involved in all this stuff. But again, he didn't look further into it. So that's where you, the listener, in the situation, you have to think for yourself, how do you feel about that? I think the big thing that a lot of people ask me separately, and I told them, my issue with this is you went and did this, and then you created a PR nightmare for the team. You saw all kinds of people blowing up the Ducks on social media, and I feel bad for those people running the social media, because obviously they're just the messenger and you're shooting the messenger. There was a lot of that going on social media. Even on mine, I tried to stay, once the announcement was made, I tried to stay more neutral. Still got people, sending all kinds of stuff left and right, both sides. People saying this was great, and people saying it was not great, and then of course then people going at each other, which I hate that on social media. I'm not a big fan of that, but that was a big mixed thing. So that's the big thing in there is that's why we leave it to you. You have to search your soul and see how you feel. I guess I'm okay with him being the coach going forward, but there's still just some little holes here and there that don't sit right with me, and that's just kind of where I'm at, unfortunately. And I do think that Elliot Freeman had talked about this too on the 32 Thoughts podcast shortly after it happened, about how the Ducks had other options. They did decide to pay more money for a coach, which I thought that was great. He also said that Beach gave his blessing too. Again, not from him directly. But he hit on a good point here, Eddie, and I mean, now we have to move forward, right? No matter what you and I say, any of you out there listening to, I know a lot of you too chimed in on the Ducks website. I know people on our staff did that too. There were a lot of people that chimed in on there, and I think some people maybe feel like the Ducks didn't listen to you or not, or however you feel. But the big thing going forward now is this is really, I think, his last chance. I mean, Elliot Freeman talked about it. This is it. He's got to go for it and see what happens. I also think the other part of this that kind of rubbed me wrong too was in that press conference they asked him about talking to other teams and all that stuff. And I don't know if some of you caught that, but he didn't go into that. So to me, I don't think other teams did talk to Coach Quenneville based upon his reaction there. Maybe he did. Maybe there's other reports out there. I haven't seen them. If I'm wrong, then by all means let me know. But my reaction that day when that press conference, that question was asked, I don't think so. Because the other part was they had talked about Q, and he was the first choice. That's what Elliot Freeman said. They went and talked to him first. Then they talked to these other candidates, and they came back to him. So to me, and also Verbeek saying that, hey, he's known him since 18 years old and he's a good guy and all these other things. Okay, cool, whatever. But I don't see in there, I just, that's the other part. I wonder if any other if either he reached out to another team or any other team reached out to him. And the way that press conference the Ducks went leads me to believe that they didn't, or if they did, it were very, very like superficial conversations, nothing very involved. That's just kind of my take. So, I mean, I'm trying to come at this at all the angles and throw it at everybody that's listening. But that's where I said, I don't know, what did you think about the press conference and kind of Elliot Freeman's thoughts on this?
Gosh, it was kind of scripted, just like they all are. Like every team in the whole NHL, they have a scripted like press conference. Like, so it's not really the truth. Mike, I don't know. I was kind of irritated, and a lot of you agree with me, and I talked to a lot of you offline, and it's kind of a weird situation. At one point it's like, okay, like we have a new coach which not argumenting, he's a really good coach. He's almost 1,000 game or a few games away from 1,000 wins. He started off Florida with 7-0, but I mean, do you really want to jeopardize your integrity as a team if he had baggage like that? But then on the flip side, did he really know what was going on? Did he just get briefed a little bit? I know it's his daughter is saying certain things, but she mentioned some good points. And I think his daughter would know more than the average fan and the average people. And she's not like close to NDA. She can say what the fuck she wants. So it's kind of one of those things like, man, Mike, it's like you're flirting with that whole, do I want to support it or not? And honestly, like people listening, if I knew for a fact that he was contributing to that situation, or he was one of the predators, I would renounce my whole thing from this podcast. I would not cover the Ducks. I would not even I'd throw my jerseys away or give them away. I'd just go back to or cover the Avalanche or just be with them full time, because I would never support a team that would bring someone like that. So it's a whole flip side right now, Mike. It's crazy because we don't know. And yeah, the whole interview I didn't like, but it seems more and more that he didn't really know what was going on. But on the flip side of that, he should have. Like that's your you're a coach. You should be someone's mentor, someone's dad. Like these families trust you. These billet families, these normal families, they trust you for their children. Yeah, they're 18, 19, 20 years old, but they're still kids. Mike, what were you doing at 19, 20 years old? Like, we were dumb. That's too young to make a decision. Like, people think like, oh, you're over 18, you're an adult. No, it's not. It's just crazy, but I don't know. After reading everything, I don't think it was malicious on his part, but it's still kind of a tarnished thing on the Ducks right now. So it's gonna suck, and I think right now all the eyes infamously are on the Ducks coming next season.
Yeah, as you mentioned, you talked about the whole malicious thing, and I think that's a big part of this is whether or not it's malicious or not. And that's the thing that you have to look at. And I don't think it is malicious on his part, and that's why I am able to move on and accept him as the coach and move forward. I'm not saying I like it 100%, but that's where I feel. And that's what a lot of the people were talking about, the insiders and other people around the league, is that, hey, he did make a mistake. He should have asked more questions. He didn't. And that's kind of what I look at, Eddie. That's kind of how I look at the team moving forward. So, do you have any final thoughts before I get kind of to Verbeek's interview and kind of where the team goes from here?
Yeah, I want to mention that if fans are listening, if you ever had experience of dealing with sexual assault or anything like that, I would venture you to reach out to someone, a professional, or if it's recent, to the police or something. I want to give that disclosure that you're not alone. If you have something you want to talk about, you can reach out to Mike or myself. Yeah, we're not trained professionals on that subject, but we can kind of gear you to someone that can. I mean, it's one of those things where some people are really like sensitive to talk about, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be taboo. So I mean, we're here for you, and I mean, yeah, we're a podcast. We do this for you guys, but we still care about you. Like Mike and I both talked about how if you guys ever had issues going on in your life, you can always DM both of us, and we're always here for you. So I want to throw that out there, and yeah, we'll do our due diligence. If Mike or myself ever felt that it was malicious in any intent like that, then I think both of us would agree, Mike, that I would just go venture off to the Avalanche. You would venture off to the Penguins.
Yeah, absolutely. If something came up like that and we found out more, then that would definitely be the route we would take. So I just want to remind you, too, before we kind of jump into the next thing that, this is part of the Old City Sports Network. We have a bunch of discounts and things like that in the description box. OCSN is the discount for all of those, so make sure to check it out. And I'll mention another one a little bit later. But
Jesse's probably
I guess
happier.
the biggest thing now is
Jesse's like, oh, I'm glad I'm a Ducks fan. I'm glad I'm sponsoring this show. Jesse's probably like, yes, this is not my problem.
I know it's just like where do you go? He hit me up too about this and was just didn't really have much to say. He was kind of shocked too as well. So, like a lot of you that were really shocked. So, I mean that it is what it is. I mean you gotta dissect it. We looked at it at all point of views and how you think. Kind of like to go forward with it. Like now it's kind of like okay, like well, what do you do? Like he's the coach. How do you move forward and all that stuff? And that's kind of what happened. You had Verbeek also went on the Cam and Strict podcast and talked about this whole thing, saying they turned over every stone. He didn't have to sell the owners on this, that the players are excited. He wouldn't talk about the contract, which Freeman said it was 2 to 3 years, maybe a 2-year with an option. We know the assistant coaches of Clune and Thompson are gone. He did talk about trying to improve the team in terms of special teams players. He also talked about trying to improve the team through free agency or trade. So there's a whole lot of that we have to look at. He spoke highly of Zegras and Carlson and Cutter on that show. He also talked about the Vetrano contract and things like that. So it sounds like, we may be in for a very, very busy summer all the way around, Eddie.
I hope not. I've been reading a lot of articles and a lot of bullshit about Mitch Marner to the Ducks. He wants projectedly $14 million for the season. He's not worth it. Oh my God! I'd rather play or pay a Berlin hooker for $14 million. And I'm sorry, we're just talking about the other things before, but Mitch Marner at 14, and a lot of Ducks fans want him. He can't perform in the playoffs. The Toronto Maple Leafs. And we'll talk about the whole playoffs on our next segment, like way after this. But why? We need people that can be more grit, that can get the Ducks to the next level. And I don't think it's him, Mike, at all. The Ducks, because yes, they hired a good coach, but there's still a lot of more things they have to do. They can't just walk into the ring and think they're Muhammad Ali. They're not. A lot of our players have to step up, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. The Marner thing is a big one. A lot of people are throwing his name out there. I mean, you look at the Ducks cap space situation. I mean, they're at least 30 plus million, depending on who comes back and who doesn't. The cap going up, but you got to sign Dostal. We talked about that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Marner is necessarily the answer, but a lot of people are big on that now that the Leafs got eliminated. They blew it again in a Game 7. They started. Yeah, we can talk about playoffs. They started out 2-0 on Florida, and then they were behind 3-2, and then won Game 6 and forced a Game 7. But yeah, I mean, what do you do now? You blow it up. They talk about the core 4 and all that kind of stuff, and what's going on there. But I'm not totally sold on Marner. I don't know that he's necessarily the answer for this team. It seems like he does fine in the regular season, but you need people that are going to play well in the playoffs too. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant on him and trying to pay him anywhere in the 10 plus million range.
No, hell no. I mean, if he came to the Ducks for I want to say about a 6 and 8, That'd be cool, but no. We need people that can perform in the playoffs and out of the playoffs. People like a player like Solani, Kessler at his prime. Kessler would tear it up in the season, and then fuck you up in the whole the playoffs. Mike, this is like my 4th F word of the show. This is like a record. Holy crap! Maybe I should we should stop recording, and I should record tomorrow when I'm have more decorum. No, I'm pretty sure. You know what, Mike? I met some guy at the bar. I talked about our podcast, and he mentioned one thing. 2 people mentioned one thing. They like how they said I just say shit out of my mind. So, and I get the guy a hat. He was cool. So, cheers to you guys for listening to the podcast. A shout out to, real quick, our fantasy hockey, Jonathan. We sent him a hat and a puck. Arctic Bums, I'm still waiting for you to hit me back up so I can send you something too, but back to track. Man, Mike, we need something better than that. I think, I told you too, I think, Mike, there was 10 shows last season. I told you, the Ducks are too soft. They need more grit. Sam Bennett is on the free agency. We're not going to talk about free agency this show, but I just want to throw it out there. Someone like that, we need somebody more grit. This team will never be in the playoffs if they don't have that spice and that grit to them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. They need to work on the special teams. That the power play was horrible.
Wait.
The penalty kill was horrible.
Mike, I think you're cutting off. You said special teams, right?
Yes.
What special teams? I don't. I'm kidding. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's why they got rid of the assistant coaches. So I want to see who they're going to bring in, who's going to fix that part of it. And then kind of go from there too as well. So they need some players that that can perform down the stretch on special teams and in playoffs. So I don't know that Marner's the answer. And like you said, I don't know if I would take him for that much money. But Ducks are going to have to figure that out. You look at these teams that are left. You've got Dallas and Edmonton, Florida, and Carolina, who a lot of you guys aren't really sure who's going to make it. There's a lot of debates about how it's going to go. I put a poll question. It was almost even across the board of who thinks going to make it as far as this matchup. But you got to have these teams that you have to have some of that element, and you can't just be a 5-on-5 team, which we talked about in the last show. The Ducks had issues with that as well. So there's a lot for the Ducks, I think, to do this summer. I think they're going to have to figure out their coaching staff, and once these playoffs settle down, kind of go from there and see what Verbeek wants to do, because he talked about adding through free agency and he talked about trading. So that's why I'm really curious to see. They also talked about another thing that came up is Jonathan Toews, that Elliot Freeman brought it up on his podcast. Other people brought it up too, is does he come back to the league? They talked about Coach Q and how he can attract players to the team. So that's another name that was thrown out there is he going to come back? Is he going to join the team? What kind of condition is he in? He hasn't played for a couple seasons too. Is he ready to go? Which is also kind of a question I had about Quenneville. I mean, Quenneville's won 3 Stanley Cups, don't get me wrong, but he's been out of it for a little bit too, taking out the other issue, just taking about the on-ice performance stuff. So that's what I'm curious to see is Coach Q able to attract quality players to the team, and how that'll work out, Eddie?
Yeah, I think he does. As much as we talked about and the whole negatives and positives about this, I think Coach Q will attract different free agents to the Ducks. No matter what you think about him and what we talked about him, which we don't know, and both of us, Mike, and everyone listening to and everyone commenting, we don't know the whole entire truth. We hear one side, we hear the second side. There's a third side, the truth. We don't know that. His daughter has mentioned a lot of stuff. She knows a lot. So I would take what she says with a little bit more, I guess, seriously, because she's in the mix. But we have to kind of see what's going to happen. From players that I've read about with him, he's a good coach. He's gotten players to get to their absolute best elite level. I want to say Patrick Kane was one of them. You have Zegras too, American player. Zegras has really defined himself as a two-way player this season. I know like people weren't so happy about him not being the offensive or person he was, throwing the whole trick things, but he really solidified himself as a two-way center player. He really went up there defensively, Mike. We all saw that. So I don't know what Quenneville has. I'm sure he has more tricks up his sleeve coming up next season. So, I mean, what can we do, Ducks fans? Like, what can we do? Are we going to bitch and cry about this, about something we don't know? I mean, if it was definite proof, like I told you a few minutes ago on this podcast, that, yeah, if it was definite proof that he was the main contributing factor of what happened with Kyle Beach, but he wasn't, and we don't know it. Like, no one knows it. We heard interviews about Kyle Beach giving approval, so are we going to sit here and dwell and bitch about it? Yeah, I mean, yeah, we should a little bit, but we should give him a chance. People make mistakes. Maybe what everything we're hearing is the truth about him, and yes, the interview that he gave I didn't like, but maybe he's an older guy. He doesn't know how to give interviews. So at this point, I'm weary, but I'll give him a chance. And I mean, if he fucks up again, which is my fifth F word of the show, which is the record again, Mike, then we'll go from there. But I think if he has the best interest and he learned from his mistakes, and he can actually bring something, and you know what, like maybe too, I'm gonna throw it out there. Whatever happened in the past, he can actually help these young kids actually say something. If they have something happen to that or to them in the past, he can actually help them kind of, I don't know, what's the word I'm talking about, Mike? I'm rambling on, but I want to say something, but my whole point...
Just guide.
Yes, guide, like, yeah, if something happened to these kids in the past and what he's gone through and his regret, maybe he can help them have a voice and say something before it's too late. That's my whole thing.
Yeah, and they talked about that in the interview. They talked about doing stuff with charities and the things that he's done the last couple of years and assistance programs and things like that. So I think all of that is good, and they're saying that the players will be safe and there won't be any issues going forward. So, I mean, right now I take their word for it. I mean, nothing has happened, but, we'll have to see how it goes, and it's kind of like his last chance. That they talked about. I think the interesting thing too is I threw out a poll question to kind of see like how people felt, because it seemed like such a mixed bag when the stuff came out, and I asked, hey, are people still going to support the team? And it was like 86% said they would still support the team. So I was kind of surprised. I thought maybe it would be a little bit more like 60-40 or something like that. Yeah, so that's the big thing, is that a lot of people, they ended up supporting the team. I was really surprised. I thought it would be a lot lower number. So it was a lot higher than what I thought. A lot of people were, at the 86, percent mark like I thought. So that was crazy. It was really, really high. I mean, it was nuts for that. So, I mean, people are still going to support the team. We have to just move forward and kind of see what they're going to do and where they're at. I don't know if you have any more thoughts on that, but I think the big thing is to see what happens, how this team recruits players, what the coaches are, and how we go from there.
No, I think we both hit it off. We both talked about like how we felt. We both gave a different argument about the pro and cons of it. And fans that don't agree and they do agree, we have to run with it. If you guys agree or disagree or agree, send us a DM, and we'll talk about it next show. We'll just answer your questions so Mike and I can actually talk. So I guess we can move into the next topic. But Mike, I do want to talk about one thing. I have a friend. She's a big Ducks fan. She supports our thing. Her Instagram is at 99xSEAX99. She's in the running for a tattoo competition. She has a Ducks tattoo. on her, and she's a really good supporter of the Ducks and Pucks. So I want to give her a shout out and stuff like that. If Mike, if you don't mind, if I can post her link to Ducks and Pucks, so you can try to get some votes for her getting a tattoo award in Ink magazine.
Yeah, sounds good.
So I want to give her a shout. Yeah, I want to give her a shout out. She's been a big supporter for the Ducks and Pucks. So yeah, I think what you said too, Mike. I think we can move on from this subject. And if anyone has any conversations, we can do it on our next podcast. And we should post a question too. If fans have a questions about this topic, we should kind of break it up. Like, hey, if you have any Ducks and Pucks questions, if you have any Coach Q questions, and we can just break it up and go from there.
Yeah, sounds good. And then we can kind of talk about the playoffs and kind of to wrap it up there. I'll mention our one other sponsor. We are part of the Hockey Podcast Network. DraftKings is one of our other sponsors. Are you ready to win some real cash during the basketball playoffs? Check out our Pick 6 from DraftKings when it comes to basketball playouts. DraftKings Pick 6 posterizes the competition, including prize picks. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use the code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to play $5. Get $50 and Pick 6 credits. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit cpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms in pick6.com, DraftKings.com/promos. All right, yeah, with that...
Dude, what a fucking read. What an ad read. See, I told you that last podcast, so you just keep nailing it. Mike, you have the bungalow.
That's right.
We have to bet. We keep reading ad reads for freaking DraftKings. I use it. DraftKings have no lube. If you guys know what that means, no lube. I keep losing on DraftKings. Mike, so you mentioned DraftKings, the whole ad read. You're betting money right now. Who's the Stanley Cup champion? And
I know we were talking about this, trying to figure out who we thought would win.
We're gonna talk about Stanley Cup, but like right now, just real quick, who wins?
I like Dallas. That's who I like.
Ugh.
Who do you like?
I like Florida.
Yeah, I like Florida too.
Florida because the fucking Rat Pack, Marchand, Bennett, Kachuk, they're assholes. They're like the Jersey Shore people. They're assholes. And you know what, Mike, too? That game, it was Shane Gostabir, whatever. He shot the puck at Marchand, just like what Heatley, or no, it wasn't Heatley. It was, who was that guy shot at Niedermeyer? Remember that?
Oh, I don't remember, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So Marchand tried to fight him. And he kept his gloves on. Like, come on, man. That was like, bitch, you shoot a puck. And it was intentional. Like, you can't even. Oh, Ducks fans, I know you guys will. Once he leaves the podcast, you guys will know who we're talking about. That player that shot the puck at Scott Niedermeyer. The same thing happened. Oh, man.
Yeah, I don't know what I didn't see it in this playoff, so I don't know who it was.
This player, it was like Ghost Bear, whatever his name is.
Yeah. He shot it this time?
Look at Marchand.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, he did.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Marchand tried to fight him, and he kept, the other guy, Ghost Bear, kept his gloves on. He was trying to, I mean, it was like weird, it was like really, really, really stupid swings. They weren't even hitting each other. It reminded me of the whole Niedermeyer thing in Ottawa.
Oh, I see what you're talking about.
Yeah, who was the captain of the Senators that time?
It escapes me at the moment.
It was a mistake, too. It was a mistake.
Alfredsson.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Alfredson's a respected person in the league.
Yeah.
And he fucked up. But, oh my God, that was bad.
Yeah, you got some good teams in here. Dallas and Edmonton, Florida, Carolina. I like it. There's a lot of good matchups still left to go here. I'm good with anybody winning. I know a lot of people kind of want Edmonton because Perry was on there, but I'm just kind of like, this is not a big deal to me. I'm not a huge fan of Edmonton. I kind of a mixed bag. I mean, yeah, I like Perry and Henrique, but I'm not a big fan of all those other players. So, yeah, I mean that's kind of where we sit on that. But yeah, that'll wrap up soon. We've got the draft will come up. The Ducks ended up going 10th in the overall pick. They were 8th. Kind of disappointing. They've always kind of been even or fell off when it comes to the draft lottery. Did you watch the draft lottery this time? At least it seemed a little bit more transparent.
I was confused. I was really confused. Like I was like, holy shit. Okay, they did a good job, but then like ESPN cut it off. Okay, what's going on? I don't know. They did try it, but I don't know. The NHL is just they keep dropping the ball, Mike. Like I don't know what's going on. Like, all we wanted was just a live feed of everything. But then they made a spectacle about it. Like, oh, yeah, we're going to do this. Oh, we'll cut back to commercial for the first round, for the second round. And then, no, the second round, they cut off before that. And everyone got pissed. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I still think, Mike, and I'll say this, I'm not a conspiracy theory. Maybe I am. I think the whole draft is rigged.
Yeah,
I think Ducks fans can agree with me. Like, it's bullshit. It's rigged. Chicago has... I'm glad Chicago had Bedard. He's one of the biggest bitches in the league. He reminds me of LeBron James, but the whole thing is, like, it's rigged. The way they're doing it, it's so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that before. I think they did make a better attempt to get a little bit more transparent, but yeah, I don't know. That's another thing that doesn't sit right with me is the way that goes down as well as the way that the draft lottery is. So I don't like them cutting stuff or anything like that. I think they need to be a little bit more on it with that as well.
It's dumb, but you know what? At least they tried. That's a good thing, right?
Yep, they did try.
They tried. Mike, you know what? It was really good talking to you. Like, I haven't talked to you in a few weeks, and we weren't planning to have a show tonight. It was, like, really improv and spontaneous. So, yeah, it was good. Once again, I want to thank everyone for hanging with us and showing us support and love. The person at the bar, too, I give him a hat. You guys told me you're listening to the podcast. You guys love our show. You didn't know like who I was. I'm no one, but you thought it was Mike, which was really an honor. But damn. But yeah, it was cool. We're here still, and we're gonna give you the best coverage we can. And shit, Mike, thank you. And hope you have a good summer. Hope you guys have a good summer. I'm pretty sure we're gonna talk to you in a few weeks. I'm sure Ducks will make some kind of moves. So
yeah, we'll just kind of wrap up the show. We didn't take any fan questions because we weren't sure if we were going to do the show. It's kind of last minute, but we wanted to mainly just kind of talk about the Q situation and the kind of the team going forward. But we'll have another show talking more about the draft and free agency as that time gets closer. Again, hope everybody has a good Memorial Day weekend. Thanks for supporting us. We'll still be here covering the Ducks. And thank you for the support, and let's go Ducks.